The first investment property that I bought to hold for the long term changed everything for me. And so let me briefly tell you the story, if I may, because I honestly think it will change everything for you and the way that you look for deals. So back in 2012, when I was just sort of starting to seriously build my property portfolio, I used to do lots of really, really weird things to get myself directly in front of the seller. I used to have vans with need to sell your house fast, and I used to do bandit boarding, which is where we put signs up on lamp posts. I used to do lots of leafleting, and I even walked around the streets with A boards taped to me. By the way, don't do that, it's absolutely terrifying. Anyway, all of this activity used to generate loads of leads, and I did lots of deals as a result, but I will never forget the first one. I had this lady contact me. She lives in Poole, and she kind of got one of my leaflets through her letterbox, and she sort of reached out to me and said that she'd been on the market for 18 months. She hadn't been able to sell, but she was clearly really, really keen to sell. And so I kind of went over to go and see her. And when I looked into what the problem was, it was really clear, to be honest with you. It was a perfectly nice two-bedroom house, nothing particularly exciting, pretty standard terraced house, but she was simply asking too much money for it. It was about, I don't know, £7,000 or £8,000 over the general market value. And so it was really clear to me that that was what the problem was, because as I say, it was a perfectly nice house. I explained to her what the situation was, but she was just unwilling to drop the asking price, so I dug a little bit deeper. And there are ways that you can kind of do this without intruding. You need to kind of get to the root of the problem. And it became clear. Her dream was to buy a static home. Now, if you're not clear what a static home is, it's a kind of like a very, very large caravan, although you should never call it that. And she wanted to buy one of these within walking distance to her daughter and also to her local doctor. But the problem was, she thought that static homes were really, really expensive. In her view, she needed to sell for X because she felt that X was what was needed to buy the static home of her dreams. Now, I did loads and loads of research on this because I really wanted to help her. She was a wonderful, wonderful person. But if I'm going to help, it's also got to be a deal for me because this is a business after all. Now, after loads of digging, it turns out, and I've become a bit of an expert on static homes, to be really honest with you. Within about 48 hours, I kind of knew pretty much everything you needed to know about them. And it turns out that unlike houses, static homes really vary quite wildly in price, depending on the circumstances of the seller and the condition, etc., etc. Now, I actually walked around 4 different static home parks. I think 2 or 3 of them were in the rain, and I viewed half a dozen different static homes. And I eventually found one that was in excellent structural condition, but because I got a survey done on it, I paid to get a survey done. But it was simply tired. No problem. I owned a kitchen business at the time, so it was no problem for me to kind of get a couple of guys in there and to crack it out and make it really, really nice. To be honest with you though, it was a small place. Any one of you watching this video could organise the same thing. This is not a difficult project. You could easily get in there yourself or get somebody in there and kind of get a place like this tidied up. It's not difficult, is my point. Now, I took her to go and see it. And I explained that we would be revamping everything. We actually disagreed on the colour scheme, which I thought was really comical. She had a very wonderful, clear idea of how she wanted this place to look, and I love her for it. We even met up with a couple of the neighbours that lived on either side. To cut a long story short, she absolutely loved this place. And we agreed a deal there and then. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to share the numbers with you here because that's unfair on this particular person. And we do still talk on a regular basis, so I'm not going to share the details. But I do want to share the overall outcome here because there is a huge lesson that I think you would benefit from. But very briefly, at the end of the deal, this lovely lady ended up with her dream home within walking distance of her daughter and also her local doctor. I ended up with a house that 6 months later, I was able to refinance to pull all of my cash back out of the deal. So there was no money left in there, which of course means I actually get an infinite return on my investment. And after refinancing from day one, it put £400 in my pocket each and every month. Now, I know that doesn't sound like an awful lot of money, and I've certainly done a lot bigger deals since then. But at the time, you have to understand that I was working 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week in my kitchen business, and not a particularly happy bunny. 10 years later, that house has doubled in value, and it puts roughly about double the amount of cash flow in my pocket each and every month. So why did this deal change everything for me? And perhaps more importantly, how does it help you knowing this? Well, I know I wouldn't have secured this deal if I was only looking for properties on Rightmove. And I also know I wouldn't have been able to help somebody who really needed to sell and who was unable to sell. I was only able to find and secure this deal because I got out there and started marketing direct to sellers. And that's what I need you to take away from this video. Now, you don't have to stand out in the streets with A-boards strapped to you. Please don't do that. But if you want to secure fantastic off-market deals, I honestly think you should be doing some kind of direct-to-seller marketing rather than just doing what everybody else is and going on to Rightmove and searching for the same things. So my question to you is, what one marketing approach could you start doing this week that would put you directly in front of sellers? If you would like to learn how to build a small property portfolio and live off the rental income like Liana and I do, I've got to just point out that version 4 of my online property masterclass program is coming soon. And if you'd like to find out exactly what's included in this program, click the link here and I'll let you know as soon as it goes live.